everyone. Welcome to today's walkthrough of Vtuber game development. And before we start, let's kick off our conversation with a little trailer developed for our Q&A session. I'm just gonna go live now on my screen. Perfect. So the Off-World Live shared repository is a permissive open source Unreal project file repository on GitHub, and it's also powered by Bounty, our community program. And this shared repository contains a lot of project assets made for and by creators of real-time content. And the shared project will be community-led and orientated, encouraging collaboration and contribution. So today we're going to walk through what we are going to build for the next few weeks into a short Q&A session. So feel free to chime in and ask us any questions. So we're currently building a Vtuber studio that is a standalone application, and it is a packaged Unreal Engine project turned into a really fun Vtuber studio. So we're really excited to show you how we've got to that step by step. But we're also going to share a lot of useful blueprints on Pastebin for our Unreal Engine community, as well as allowing this open repository to be hosted on GitHub and shared to our community as well. So a bit of project overview. We're mainly going to be looking into developing the main menu, and also we've broken down like what it takes to create a Vtuber studio basically. And with this project comes a few different categories and sections we'll be developing over the next few weeks. First of all, it's the main menu, the entire kind of like project architecture engineered by this main menu, but we've also got camera systems, render targets, as well as media output and streaming options. And alongside that also comes with media feeds streaming into Unreal, as well as avatar customization, live link, or face capture options, as well as different characters for you to choose from. At the beginning, we've started with our VRM character, which is this Japanese 3D asset file format that we're going to use our character on based on VRM, as well as Metahumans. And today we'll be specifically looking into camera systems and also into the three types of capture modes on that Off-World toolkit offers, as well as diving into the render target and switching these camera modes using a widget blueprint for a camera switch. So we'll be looking into buttons, the designer and graph for widget blueprints, as well as the blueprint for toggling camera systems. So let's start now. Can everyone see my screen all right? So at the beginning, this is our Unreal project, and we've basically created an environment. That looks like a VTuber studio, and we've placed different items in there for you to preview the scene. So just a very quick overview of the scene. You've got Lola on the left here, which is a really cute mascot of our VTuber studio. we've got a main protagonist here that is the off-world VRM character. In the background here, we've got media feeds in for you to change materials for that, but also a preview material of how you're going to output your camera captures. So a bit of walkthrough for today. We've just created this environment for the scene, and then we're going to go into the camera systems. So first of all, Off-World comes with many capture systems, and particularly we're going to use viewport capture, CineCam capture, as well as 360 cam capture today. So I've added all of these three captures into my Unreal scene, as you can see here. And once these are added, I've created an individual texture target for each capture setting. So if you look at this now, you've got viewport capture 0. You've then also got CineCam capture that has a specific camera setting, and then also inserted a texture target, render target here. And then finally, we've got the 360 camera capture that you can see over here. It's got a texture target, and it's using the equirectangular projection type of 360. So a little window on my left here, you'll be able to see this kind of this equirectangular texture. Then if we just play our scene here, this is what we're gonna build today. And so as you can see, we've got like a main menu that's created using the widget blueprint. Using this menu, we're able to toggle different camera systems. And then you can also move the scene to make sure that, so this is the viewport capture. We've got this infinite mirror here, a CineCam capture, as well as a 360 capture of the scene. So now let's look at doing the widget blueprint, and I'm gonna just have maybe Wesley on the call help us walk through the widget blueprint. So in this in our project, we've kind of like put everything into folders, and here in the widget folder you'll see the VRM widget. Let's first jump into the designer part of this widget blueprint. To start off with the project, we've created 5 buttons. With each contains an image and a hover image that allows you to click, press and hover onto these buttons to create events. And on the side here, we've got like a side menu widget that contains settings for camera systems. So here on the hierarchy, you can see these 5 buttons that signifies the different functions. And also we've got a camera overlay as well as a settings overlay. So this is the left widget on the left, where we'll be able to choose capture mode, resolution and output options. So today we're specifically looking into toggling the camera systems, as you can see. So now we're going to dive into the graph. Wesley, do you want to jump in and show us the widget blueprint? Okay, cool. Oh, okay, I see. Let me give you permission. Give permission to talk. We might have to get Wesley the permission to speak and join the chat. Let me see if I can do that here. Okay, cool. Yeah, Jasper will be joining in a second, but see. Cool. So let me just continue for now. So in order to do switch camera systems, we've had to first get these actors into our blueprint. So on initialize, we created a sequence allowing us to get all of these actors that refer to our camera systems, and each camera system is an actor class that we can find using the get actor of class nodes. So first we see that there's a viewport capture here, then there's cinecam capture, and there's 360 capture. And then with that, we're setting these three types of capture modes over here. Oh yeah, we can hear. Sorry. With that also then, we've now got into the toggling the camera button modes. Hi. So using the camera button, which is this button over here, we're gonna do first a toggle option to toggle our camera systems. So on press, which is an event created using the camera button, we're setting first the webcam to be active. Hi, I can hear you now.
Hi.
Hi.
So yeah, let me take over this toggle part. Supposedly this could be done with a multi-gate, but since we have multiple ways of controlling the toggle, we're opt for manually managing an index and incrementing the index to simulate the toggle. So if we scroll to the right a bit.
Yeah, so this is the toggle index that will create different switches to the options on integer. And so we've created 5 options. As you can see here, I'm just going to preview our game again for those who haven't seen it. Sorry for the opening sequence, it takes a while. But here you can see that we've got 5 options here. So first is viewport capture, the second is cinecam, which has the background and the character, and then we've got 360 camera, and then we've got cinecam with just the character and with an alpha channel, and then 360 with the character and alpha channel. So in order to recreate that, we'd have to look for these 5 options here, and I'm not sure if we've done it the right way, but we've for the camera systems to not clash with each other, we've decided to make sure that each option allows the camera systems not in use to pause their rendering. And so the first option is a viewport capture, so cinecam and 360 will have to pause rendering first before we set viewport to be active and rendering. And then I've basically set the material for the TV preview onto this TV to make sure that it is outputting the viewport render target. And then with that, I've also got the player pawn, which is the character controller, to set it to look at the TV. Then Wesley, feel free to jump in and explain these other ones, and maybe explain also the show only list.
Yeah, the show only list is when you want to focus on some specific meshes. For example, as you see in the demo, if you want to focus on the character only, then you can go to the can you hop back to the scene,
Yeah.
and if we hover over, say, the Cinecam,
The Cinecam, so over here. So this,
under the alpha settings,
so you can see this is behind the scenes of these captures. We've got the 360 cam as here, mesh here, and we've also got the Cinecam over here. So if we look at each camera system, so the Cinecam capture, scrolling down to the render target, we can find alpha settings. And using the show only list, we'll be able to select actors we want to show, or you can also invert alpha to only show the background instead of the character. So this is what the scene looks like. It's a it's 3 capture modes, so Cinecam, 360, as well as viewport capture over here. You can see here there's the gizmo here, and each with its own texture target and a toggling system using this widget blueprint. So hopefully that's clear, but feel free to ask us if you have any questions. We'll be developing this camera system a lot more in the next few weeks, so that whenever you switch these switch the camera system, this could be used for either your webcam or your stream, or using Spout and NDI to send them out of Unreal simultaneously, and also using media recording as well. So that's about it. Feel free to let us know if you have any questions. Just gonna check the stream's going alright. Yeah, okay, cool.
Is it possible, Jen, just to talk through the open project again? Because I think a lot of people have joined.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's kind of useful for them to know that these blueprints are all going to be on GitHub and on the paste bin, so they're available for anybody, and talk a bit about where we're going with it all, because I think that's going to be really helpful for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just starting over here. So yeah, welcome to our Q&A session, and basically on Wednesday, 4 p.m. GMT each week, we'll be walking through short demonstration of specific workflow, followed by an open Q&A. And in our weekly sessions, we'll be learning new blueprints and setups for your VTuber content. And so specifically, we're working on an open repository project right now, and here's a trailer Again, the Offworld Live shared repository is a permissive open source Unreal project file repository on GitHub, and it's powered by our community program Vtuber project. The Offworld Live shared repository contains a lot of project assets made for and by creators of real-time content. So this shared project will be community-led and also orientated, allowing us to have collaboration and contribution for the Offworld community. And we're currently building a VTuber studio that will be packaged as a standalone application for you to share with your friends. it's really exciting because throughout the making of this process of this application, you can use the app to share with your friends and your community, but also reuse some of these blueprints to make your own application. And these are all free on GitHub for you all to use. And this kind of process will be continuing in the next few weeks to walk through each step of how to create a VTuber studio. And then finally, we'll package that from Unreal Engine into a really fun VTuber studio. And we'll also share all the blueprints on Pastebin. So this is our project overview and some of the topics we'll be covering specifically for this VTuber studio. Not only do we have the kind of like main menu looking into widget blueprints, we've also got camera systems, render target, and understanding post-processing effects. We'll be also looking into media output and streaming options in your studio, as well as media feeds, so streaming into Unreal Engine. And alongside that, a lot more kind of like skeletal mesh and VTuber actions that we can do, such as avatar customization. So this includes creating outfits for your character, but also creating like retargeting different animations, for example, from Mixamo to your different skeletal meshes, and also using face capture and live link to kind of like move the face blend shapes of your character, so that on the virtual webcam you'll be able to speak with your character. And then finally, we've got different characters we plan to introduce in the map, and we've got currently 2 options with VRM and Metahumans. And then, so this is what we've talked through today, a bit about the camera systems as well as the widget blueprint for camera switches. But I hope this is all helpful, and feel free to ask us any questions if you have any. Let's have a look. Amazing. Yes, so this stream is currently streaming onto YouTube, and they'll be posted for somewhere else. We're hoping to also create some shorts alongside this, so that you'll get information for later viewing. Yes, you'll get YouTube videos, GitHub, and Blueprint repository. Not off topic at all. So motion capture with Metahumans in real time is usually done through like mocap data streaming tools. A lot of people in the industry use Motion Builder, which allows you to stream kind of, let's say if you're wearing a suit, all of that data will be streaming in real time into Unreal using a plugin that Motion Builder has. So it'll be streamed into Unreal, and then that will, I guess, pick up as a live link option on your virtual production window, and then you'll be able to stream mocap data into Unreal Engine. With that also comes a retargeter. I can actually show you quite quickly how we've done retargeting for animations, and perhaps that will give you some inspiration into how mocap streaming works. We don't have anything streaming into Unreal at the moment, but we can show you our retargeter just very, very quickly. So as you can see, we've got our VTuber character here, and it has different animations. And for this character to have different animations, these are all retargeted from Mixamo, actually. And it's got a hand up and stuff like that. But these are basically all Mixamo animations. Just gonna make them sit down first. So just looking into this, we've got animations, and here you can see these are retargeted animations. But how does retargeting work? It will be used. Retargeters use IK regs to be their source and target, and so just looking at this retargeter, Because each skeletal mesh potentially has different rigs and skeletons, we'll need to make sure these are aligned. So IK rigs are inverse kinematics, and here you can see two kind of like IK rig assets that are generated from these two skeletal meshes. So I've imported a Mixamo skeletal mesh and a VRM preview mesh, so that when you import animations with the Mixamo skeletal mesh, they will be used for the Mixamo skeletal mesh, but for them to be applicable for also the VRM mesh, we'll have to retarget these animations to make sure they're matched up together. And essentially, if you stream data into Unreal, so mocap data into Unreal, it goes through the same process. So any mocap data will have to be retargeted to your destinated IK rig for these animations to work perfectly. And just showing you. And streaming usually works through our virtual production live link. So it usually goes through here and picks up as a source, but depending on which tool you use, it probably has their own plugin and stuff like that. Let me just check if there are any more questions. Through Metahuman, will you be touching on socketing and childing within Sequencer? We can potentially look into including socketing and childing within sequencers in the following weeks. That might be quite useful. Do I need to stop the render target when I switch to another camera? I'd like to have multi-view with maybe 3 to 5 cameras. So yes. When you pause the render target, when you switch, then you can have as many cameras as you like. This is going back to the blueprint. Yeah, we've had to pause rendering on all the cameras that are not in use. And if you can see here, our cameras are actually all use a different render target, just to be clear. So a Cinecam will have a Cinecam render target, a 360 cam will have a 360 render target, and a viewport capture will also have its own render target. And when viewport target is not in use, pause rendering will be ticked, like checked here. Yeah, feel free to ask any more questions if you have any. But yeah, I just want to know how everyone's feeling about the open repo, and whether you'd also want to clone the project to work on it together.
The answer to that, good guy Ghastly, is yes. Especially don't stream 4K. I mean, because the problem is that even if you can render a 4K texture using DLSS, when you stream it, you need a lot of bandwidth to actually send it to the internet. So you need, like, for a good 4K texture, you need a minimum 30 megabytes a second. So, and then that's going to be happening on the download side as well. So it's just, it's really not worth it. I mean, the number of people who actually can watch in 4K is going to be tiny as well. And if they do watch your streams in 4K, well, actually, there's loads of different reasons for it, but that's one reason. The other reason is that if you're streaming to Twitch or YouTube, you can't for ultra low latency streaming, you can only do 1080 anyway. So you know you'd have to, yeah. So I just render in. Why would you render in 4K and stream in 1080?
Yes, I think for the first instance of this VTuber project, we'd really like to just learn more from the community, and if you have any like contributions or blueprints, feel free to share them with us. When the GitHub link is up, we'll let everyone know and also post it in the chat here, so that you can clone and also contribute and send us your blueprints. That would be really, really helpful. Um,
You know what would be awesome, Jen, is even just talking through the project
yeah,
is like, I mean, the slides were really useful, but maybe with reference to the project, just to talk through kind of what we're doing, because, you know, like then more generally, like we're building this, you know, we're just kind of building it as an open resource for the community. We're doing VRM and Metahuman, like you've said. You know, the kind of, and maybe just show some of the resources that would be available. Because I think, you know,
yeah,
basically the idea of this is obviously to help people. Well, what would be good to talk about is how the reason why we're doing this is so that there's this massive repository of blueprints and capabilities. So when people start building projects, instead of starting from scratch, there's a whole bunch of capabilities they can just take off the shelf, and then obviously focus on their own project making.
yeah, yeah. I think really the key to this project is collating a lot of assets and community crowdsourcing these assets. And if we just look at so we're building at least two projects. One will be the for compositing side, on virtual production side of things, and this will be more on virtual human. And already now, in just this level, you can see different kind of like static meshes and also environment meshes that you'll be able to reuse in your projects. So looking at our project kind of hierarchies, you can see that we've got environment as a folder, where you'll find blueprints on either a sliding door, on light rigs. This is one of the most impressive light rigs built by Jasper. I really love it. Very proud to have used it in almost all my projects. This is the light rig. Um, and then we've also got, so the light rig uses a target point to target into, to direct the light. And then we've also got a bunch of materials that are animated materials, got spinning logos for you to replace your logo into this material. We've got different kind of like material instances, moving shaders that like this. Sorry, my computer's a bit slow. We've also got flat colors for the TV. We've got material functions, different kind of like more PBR, photorealistic, real-world materials, screens and text. So that's just on materials. And we've also been starting to collect some kind of different meshes, bespoke meshes from Off-Worlds. So you get these really interesting fans, cage, ceiling screen, curved LED walls, TVs, platforms, ramps, so on and so forth. You can also build a blobby, more cute, bubbly pack of assets. We've also got this specific lantern that was made for Lunar New Year, as well as bigger architecture and modular packs. This was also created by Jasper, who's designed these assets to be modular, so you can group these actors together to make them into bigger structures. We've also got different types of screens for you to reuse. So that's just on the kind of meshes, assets, light rigs side of things. Alongside that, we've got, we're also going to start looking into so so in the virtual human, um, level, we've got VRM, but we've also got Metahuman, um, our Metahuman levels. So this is just using the Unreal Metahuman, but what's interesting about that is that we've also designed different customizations that you can create. And so let's look at the assets here. We've got different animations, also retargeted from Mixamo animations that we can continue to add to our bank. We've also got outfits and different glasses and outfits. And this outfit is made in Clo as well, so that it fits the kind of like standard metahuman female medium rig. It's also got a t-shirt outfit that you can replace with different materials. So let's say if you'd like to change the material of these t-shirts, these are all kind of customizable things that you can do. And we're continue building this repository week by week, so hopefully you'll be able to take really valuable assets from this and really build quick prototypes and also your own VTuber studio.
Yeah, I thought maybe if I could just chime in a little bit about the use of the shared project. Am I clear? Can you hear my audio?
Sounds
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that I've been finding it really useful already for like if I'm going to start a new project, as you sort of already mentioned, it's like you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from this place of like, yeah, just being able to drag stuff off the shelf and repurpose it for what you need. Like for me, for example, just having like a base material that has a triplanar on it, which means it can project onto any mesh in a perfectly kind of uniform way. That that in itself has just been really, really useful to just have in the project from the get-go when I'm building other
You
stuff.
want to share your screen while you talk through this, Jasper, because then maybe that's useful for everybody.
Yeah, I don't have anything open right now. That's a good idea. Oh yeah, cool. Cool. Yeah, so that's streaming okay if I got like quite a big lag.
Looks good.
Lagging quite a lot, yeah. Hold on one sec. This less laggy now?
Yeah, it looks fine.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's just like this triplanar material for one. It's just something I've put together, pieced it together from tutorials and stuff, and you know, it's quite complex, took a while to make, but just having that master material together means I can now just like say I want just a perfect grid that kind of covers any object. You can see like on this object, the tiling is like the same wherever you kind of move it, and that's really, really useful for like world building and stuff, you know. So it could be not like a grid or something like this, it could be like any other texture that you want to add in here. You could even pull textures from things like mega scans, and just use that along with this kind of triplanar functionality to just make useful things. So like this, like the kind of point of that is that even for little videos I want to make or stuff like that, I would always use a lot of assets from this starter project just to get going with. So yeah, I guess it's useful at this stage so far in terms of we have these materials, we have these assets going on, but to take that kind of um, ethos of making these kind of starter projects and really develop that into more blueprints, even full environments, lighting setups, things like that. That's what we're really, really excited about sort of providing for you guys. So it's kind of be really awesome to hear what you would like to see in like a starter project, and that would really help us move forward with more things we want to develop.
Cameras on rails. Yeah,
Nice, nice.
we can make some cameras on rails.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Mm.
Maybe we should do also a
But what might
community
be
mood
useful
board.
actually is to talk about also how we're going to kind of break out blueprints and assets, you know, so that they're usable, so people can grab the projects themselves, but then also actually just grab specific blueprints or specific assets and stuff. I don't know if you're ready to talk about that, but that could be cool.
As in putting them. So I think for each element or feature, I'll probably create a mini recipe for it. So like explain what actors you have in your scene, and also then copy the blueprint and put it on Pastebin. But we'll probably have to do a bit of trial and error to make sure these blueprints are the most usable. As a user who hates blueprints, I think a clean and super easy workflow for new users and good doc on how to get easy and fast. Yeah, I mean having good documentation on reusing the blueprints will be quite useful. Yeah, I think that would be really nice.
What kind of YouTube videos does everybody find most useful for learning?
Yeah, I think understanding a format of that will be really useful, so that we can just recreate that type of format. Or do you prefer shorts? Do you prefer quick documentations, fast and straight to the point? Cool. Me too. I watch Jasper's playlist all the time.
Oh my god, thanks so much, good guy Ghastly. Very sound.
Work instructions could be better. Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean work instructions?
That's a written step by step stuff. Yeah, definitely
You
a good
mean
point about instructional stuff being easier to revise. Like, found that on the Knowledge Center, haven't we?
yeah, for real. That's true. That's true. That's also true, Romy, about just whacking in. I mean, a lot of this stuff will just be plug and play, in fairness. Yeah. I mean, I think for the stuff you're interested in, Romeo, we're going to do a compositing, one of these compositing sessions. We're going to do that tomorrow, do a weekly compositing. But yeah, I mean, the plan for that is we'll actually basically set up some different virtual studio rigs, and then you can just play around with that.
Yeah, I guess the concept of having these repositories on GitHub is that when you clone them as projects and then open the level, it is plug and play because you're just opening the level. And I would probably suggest using that as an option to change the kind of style, visuals, meshes within the scene, but keeping the functionalities the same. So that would probably be the best way to do it. Because I'm thinking about Spark AR project templates. They're really good at creating templates, as they've basically just got the kind of like infrastructure going, and then they've got replace me and delete me in some of the meshes so that you can customize the look and feel of it, but the general functions are still working completely fine. So I think once the GitHub is public, we'll be able to do a lot more of these plug and play tutorials as well.
The reason for Composure, Romeo, is because basically if you don't use Composure, all your media is just going to get anti-alias. That's the problem. And there's no way around that. So I saw the example you shared with the Black Magic, which obviously looks good, but still the media gets really washed out. You can see that. Yeah, basically, genuinely, like, check out the difference. I mean, look, let me see if I can upload a file. I look at the difference between these two things, right? This is like standard Unreal Media Plate on the left, and then using Composure on the right. Like, you got to use Composure. And sure, you can add some emissive on the left, blah blah blah, but you're going to get there's nothing you can do about it. Okay, because basically the what happens to the so basically you take your plane, and then there's all these post-process effects, and then on your plane you're applying the video, right? And you're then keying that or whatever, or you're sending in the keys. But even so, there's all these post-process effects which are being applied to the plane, and you don't want them to be applied to your media. And so that's why you can't fix it, basically. So what Composure does, I mean, like, in case it's helpful to know, is like, what Composure is doing is it's putting in your media right at the end of the render pipeline. So it just renders all of your scene, and then it whacks your media in right at the end. And that's why it comes in completely clean. If you want to have, yeah, go for it. Jump on the mic. I don't know if I think this is set up in the wrong way. Is that right, Jasper?
Yeah. I'll see if I can flip that now.
Let's see if you can sort it out, because it'd be awesome for people to join by voice. Yeah, Baron, not at the moment. It's an interesting idea. It will be a lot of work, but it's something we're kind of interested to do. Like, do you use Natron or something like that, or Nuke or Natron, or is that the point?
I'm just going to change it so everyone can talk.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it'd be great if Epic developed it, I agree. That would be awesome too.
Should be able to unmute yourselves now. Thank you. No.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe, but I don't know if, yeah, maybe Avalanche will be like the first step in it. I guess that would make sense. I don't know how much at the moment. Like, certainly I've not heard, even talking with Epic, of Avalanche being really that much to do with that at this point in time. I think it's more to do with motion graphics.
You should be able to speak now, Romeo.
Maybe we can unmute you. Yeah. What is this to do with, Jasper? The permissions on the channel or what?
Yes, I'm looking at
Permissions.
yeah, permissions specific to this channel. Go edit channel permissions. Uh, got an at everyone. I'll just tick speak. No.
Mm, weird.
Yeah, not sure. Uh,
Yeah, it could be. Mm. Yeah, I think that's what Avalanche is. Yeah, it's like an After Effects for you, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, hey. So thank you guys for letting me join with you today. Your plugin looks really good. Your program, I liked some of the features that I saw. So when it comes to the composure versus the material object or whatever, I'm not like the expert or anything. I just know from a work experience. Composure, I've never understood why people use it, and I heard the answer that you gave. I always thought it's just because the keyer was better, but from my understanding, composure works like a sticker, correct? It's not like how I can just overlay on a media plate.
Yeah, it's different, but that's so the thing. I mean, we'll do a session on this tomorrow, right? So we'll do the compositing one tomorrow. But yeah, so composure is layers. So like when you're working in Unreal and you use your plane, you're just putting that plane in your 3D world. So everything's just 3D. You're just in the 3D world, right?
Right.
But what Composure's doing is it's actually creating 2D layers that you put one on top of the other. That's
Correct.
why
So
obviously
yeah.
you avoid the anti-aliasing. But you
So
know,
from a user perspective, right? I like most people I deal with on set, and they prefer the plain method because we don't like the sticker feel of composure, right? So understand that some people are willing to sacrifice certain things, amongst others. So I've been doing my due diligence on the TAA whatever problem, and
mm,
there are some console commands that kind of work with it, but where I'm at a loss for is if you notice, even when I get a good key, if you put a fast moving object behind the transparency, you get that ghosting. And I
hmm
was explaining that I've kind of figured out a solution to avoid that problem, but I just don't have the blueprint know how to do it. And from what I've been experiencing working people on sets from video walls to just regular green screen studios is that we all want that freedom to not be locked into the sticker mode of composure, which is the deal breaker for us. So I'm not totally against composure, but I do know there are a lot of people out there that just don't like it as well as myself.
but when you say sticker mode, do you mean the fact that the media plate is full screen or what?
No, it just feels like you have to do the background, then you kind of sticker the footage on that, and then you sticker whatever stuff you want in the other layer.
Mm,
Versus when I do it on a media plate, I literally can drop a cinematic cam, make the plane objects stay in line with the camera, and I have free range to move around and do a lot of cool stuff with the camera as opposed to just the sticker effect is what I call it. I don't so much like the sticker effect. And you know, for me, I would also like stuff like when I can get Embridgen or any kind of program that does that stuff, right? That does the stuff, particles and stuff easy, where it's like a preset, old school video copilot esque in Unreal Engine. Like I want to be able to just slap as many media textures as I want and just have multiple effects going around on these little 2D planes inside of my sequencer that fire off. Or if I have the power to run the engine or whatever, and I can have the effect in 3D like it's supposed to be, that's even better on my sequencer. So for me, that's way more important for my workflow than would be to like use the compositor and have the better quality per se. Because ultimately, I'm going to take it out and try to color correct it and add noise onto it and all kind of other stuff. So that's kind of my thoughts behind it. And so I don't know.
No, it makes sense. I mean, well, what we did with the new compositing toolkit. So in Composure, I mean, maybe I can share my screen, probably helpful. But basically in Composure, you have the media plate, and then obviously you add foreground and background elements, right? And so essentially then you use a tracked camera, and with the tracked camera you can then zoom in and out and connect your physical camera to your virtual camera and scale the media that you're capturing in the virtual space accordingly. But obviously, because you've got a full plane media plate, you're just stuck with that single media feed. And so what we made is a plane. So this kind of, it helps for what you want to do. I mean, you need loads of tools for what you're talking about, and like Baron says, some of those will come from Avalanche as well. But what this will help you do, if you want, is you can add multiple planes into your scene at the same time and avoid the anti-aliasing. So that at least, let me just open it up. Oh god. Get the media feeds, but give me a second. I'll probably have to share the whole screen there. If you can, you see this? Still working?
Yes, it's
I
working.
just see the two. Yeah, I see it now.
So, I'll talk you through the first bit. So basically, in the Composure workflow, which is kind of what you're referring to, you bring in your media feed. That's like here. I've got that as the plate, right? And then normally, that's full screen like that. And then obviously, if you connect it up with your tracked camera, then it will scale as you move the tracked camera around the scene, and it's connected to your virtual camera. But if you don't have a tracked camera, then previously with Composure there wasn't really anything you could do. So what we did is we basically made a plane that you can put into your scene, and then a transform pass that connects up with that plane. And what that means is that you can then, it basically knows where your camera is, and it will scale your media. If I do that, it'll automatically scale them. So if I do this, like you can see, if I switch off the transform pass, then because I've not obviously got this connected up to a track camera, when I move around, my media is just going to stay full screen like that. But because I've assigned this plane there to it, then, when I turn on the transform pass, then it'll then be locked to that plane. And obviously that's kind of pretty neat. So if you're using a track camera for the main talent, that doesn't make too much of a difference. But for, like, if I open up OBS, I've got some spout inputs which I was sending into this. What it does allow, which is pretty cool, which I think was kind of what you were saying when you're talking about different media inputs, is it allows you to then send in more media inputs. So if I go through here, like, each of these should be on a spout sender. Oh, 1 second. Tell me if this is making sense, by the way. What it should do. So we've got, this is on, alright, yes. See if OBS is sending these. That's the one that's coming in. And then so now should be coming in. And if I do this one, and then this one, this. Maybe I need to rename that one as well. I don't know, can you see that, Romeo? Does that make sense? Or is it not making any sense?
No, it does. May I ask, like on the plane object, why are the edges so crunchy? Is it because of the FXAA or TAA settings in the console command, or is that just?
No, let me explain. It's kind of interesting. So, so what's happening is it's to do with. Oh, let me just. Okay, yeah. What have we got? Is that stuff right? Sensor. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's just because this is. Need to fun. Can you hear me again now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, my headset switched off. So what it is that what's happening here is that basically I'll turn on the viewport and you can kind of see more. So if you see here, basically there's technically some actual planes. These planes in the background. Basically, there's technically, and what's happening is that these media feeds are being mapped onto these planes, and that's happening kind of dynamically. And so the media feeds are actually coming in, and they're coming through in composure, in post process. That's why they're not being anti-aliased. So, for example, like if I show you what these would look like in Unreal, like natively in the scene, if we check this out, then they'll look quite different. And what you need to do is you need to just take the edge off. So they kind of. So at the moment, you can see the edge on them. If you basically, you can just cut out that edge with like an erode. I mean, that's something we'll include in the open project, and then you won't see the edges. So it's because in this case, there's essentially like a plane with a material sitting behind this, But if you don't want reflections, you can actually just not have that plane. You just make it not visible. And if you want reflections, which is the reason why it's there in this case, then you can set a road on it, and it will get rid of that. I'll map the right ones to the right thing. Kind of a bit ad hoc. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm talking about there?
Yeah, I do. I do. I don't want to make this all about, stuff, especially when y'all doing it tomorrow. So I'll definitely join in tomorrow so I can ask a few more questions. But one thing I would like to point out to you is that from a user perspective, a lot of the stuff you just showed me involved about 10, 15 other steps that I might be unwilling to take as a user. Keep that in mind. Like with the media play option, for me at least, I literally can stream my footage in, which initially that's what I liked about Off-World, is being able to stream in from either the desktop or, external, whatever, without having a deck link for other people who don't. So I like that feature, and I like what I'm seeing with this composure. But from my own perspective of using it, like, I just want something that I could grab, drop my media plate from inside of the keyer that I'm developing. I can color correct, clean up, get rid of the anti-aliasing. And if I figure out this method of implementing this ghosting issue with the movement behind it, then we talking about a 1 or 2 minute grab select versus a whole setup of other stuff. And then think about on set. When you're already like a one-man show, or you don't have a big team, you might be swamped with a list of things to do with hooking up the hardware, trackers, all this other stuff, that by the time you get to this, you want as many things possible that can't break, that just work without any other issues. So just keep that in mind, like when y'all are developing the widget and stuff, of like I can understand y'all know this stuff, but when a person who doesn't see it, you feel overwhelmed. But just being able to come over and see a tutorial where you're like, hey, grab this, slide this over there in the render target, slide this there. I think that's key to like getting people to really embrace it and understand it.
Oh, big time. No, I mean, there's just a lot of technology involved in setting this up, because the other thing that we added to Composure is also that the CG element and the matte are now using the viewport pipeline instead of using the the scene capture 2D. So for example, like if I show you this, like if you check this out, so this is that's like the viewport rendering pipeline, and if you compare that to this, which is the scene capture 2D pipeline, so it looks a lot better, right? So there was quite a lot we had to do, and then obviously there's the video plane stuff that I was showing you there. So you can see like all the post-process effects coming through here, the reflections, etc., and this is just totally washed out. And so the next phase with this is we will be making a wizard, which is kind of I think like what you're talking about. And so what that would be is that you don't have to do all this configuration. You'll just go onto the wizard and say like, okay, I want a comp with foreground, background, matte, and background, media plate, like foreground, matte, and like single media, or I want like 2 media planes or whatever, and it will just build all of them together and also have the right material. And the idea behind that is then, it's all pre-configured, and like you're saying, then all you do is you just set up your media input.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, so we were working on we started off on VTubing, but we've ended up on compositing. But yeah, Virtual Steve, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I use Offworld Live for actually live streaming VR content, and I sort of use Unreal Engine 5 as like my virtual environment, so I can do cool things like camera movements, videos on screens, that kind of stuff. But my question is, right now I kind of use like a dual PC setup because the performance that obviously Unreal Engine would take away from trying to play games at the same time. I haven't really tried it, but I would imagine it's going to affect my performance quite a bit. So I guess the question that I'm asking, is there any way to... Now, I've always just run from inside of the editor with like the export of the camera to OBS. Is there a better performance if I package it into like a game sort of thing?
So what's your setup? So you've got your virtual world, and then you're streaming into that world your gameplay. Is that right? Or...
Well, so I do stream the gameplay in there a little bit, but essentially when I transition into like a gameplay scene, and then at that point I turn off the rendering of the camera, because at that point I'm just using the actual feed from my capture card. So it's essentially like my intros where I start the show. I'm in my virtual environment, and I have a slick transition where the camera zooms in on the TV, and then the TV actually has the gameplay on it. And then I do this kind of fade that you can't even see, that it fades directly into the direct output of the capture card in OBS. And then once that fade's complete, I turn off the rendering of the Offworld Live camera. But I'm imagining, even with having that off, I'm imagining just having Unreal running in the background's probably still using up maybe VRAM for loading all the textures in the environment and that kind of stuff. I'm not too sure.
Well, yeah, for real. I mean, you're still running the software. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, the stuff you're talking about, I think, would really be helped by the level that we're building for the VTuber thing, because it's kind of like VTuber. What it really is like a big virtual studio where you send media in, you send media out, and it's got all these different options. So there'll be a lot of performance stuff there. I mean, I guess the question there is like, you got the option of, do you use alpha when so you're using like an Alcinicam, do you use alpha with that?
I've experimented with it, but for what I'm doing now, I don't need any alpha for anything.
So if you're not using alpha, I think that the most efficient is you basically, you could just package a game and then literally stream the viewport of the game. And then that's going to be definitely the most performant. Because, I mean, you could obviously, that's, because then like if your game's running, and then what you've got, and you're using like a 2 PC setup where you've got, like Unreal.
So I say 2 PC setup. When I live stream using Offworld Live, I only do it when I'm live streaming PlayStation 5 content. So I consider my PlayStation 5 the second PC, because that's cool. Doing all the rendering, obviously, of the game and that. It's just through the capture card.
And you capture card that, and then send that in. And then you basically send that into where, like OBS or something?
Yeah, send it into OBS and then get my render target of the capture card, and I can throw that on the screen in the background. But the only limitation with my current setup is that I am limited to... I mean, I could probably play some games that don't require, high frame rates and stuff like that. I could probably do that, but it'd be nice to have my setup kind of work for not only a 2 PC setup, but a 1 PC setup. I guess the one thing that comes to mind that could be a possibility, if there is a way to package it, I don't know how fast these package projects open, but I could almost like do the intro to my show with all the fancy camera transitions and stuff, and then once I transition into playing the game, I could just shut off the built game of the Offworld Live renderer, and then for times where I need to take a break or I want to talk to chat, I like to switch back to the Offworld Live scene. Then maybe I could just open it up again. I don't know how fast a compiled project like that would take to load, because I know the editor sometimes takes a good 30 seconds to a minute to load up.
Well, we've got this like a simple feature, which is you can toggle the viewport off. I think if you were running the game and you just had the viewport on toggle, and you toggle the viewport off, so there's literally doing no rendering, you know, it's not going to be using much performance at that point.
Okay.
It's literally just going to be running Unreal with a black screen.
Okay, so maybe I'll do some testing with that and see what kind of performance I get, because I'm not too knowledgeable on how Unreal Engine works, but I would imagine that there's some sort of background usage of RAM for having all those textures just kind of loaded in, the shaders and all that, because you can literally flick the switch of turning the renderer on and then they're there instantly. So I would imagine there's some kind of background resource still being.
Yeah, you just have to test it out. I mean, that's good. But you take your feed from the capture card into OBS, and then you send it from OBS into Unreal at the moment via NDI, right?
I don't know if it's NDI. What's the other option? It's
Spout.
might be Spout.
Okay, sure, because you're sending it. So OBS is running on the same machine, and you're sending it in via Spout. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting options. Like if you were using because this is where things get quite interesting with this composure stuff. Because for example, like the difference here is that you could run your game in here as like a full, clean, high frame rate, high refresh rate game feed, right?
Yeah, because that's why I switch over to the capture card feed, because I've noticed, your environment in Unreal, the camera, you have certain levels of bloom, certain levels of focus. So that's why when I do that transition from the screen in the environment to the gameplay, it's kind of like it's like a 2-second fade, so you don't really notice it. It's gradual, but there's certainly a degradation in that. So maybe if I look into composure, maybe I can just literally.
That's where this stuff gets pretty interesting. I mean, so basically, what would be cool is that when we release. We're doing it every. So, are you still on, Jen? Jen's still around, but I think she's mute. But like, so Jen, who's leading this, like virtual studio project, Vtuber, it's really virtual studio project. I think we should just look at this use case because it is a really interesting use case, basically. Because what I'm thinking is, if you've got your virtual studio, you're running it as a packaged game, you're streaming the viewport out. You could even think about in that sense, like you might not even need to stream the viewport to OBS. I mean, I don't know. It depends, like how you manage your audio, and if you're using like Stream Elements or whatever. Then
I do all my audio through OBS that way.
Okay, yeah. So then you still want to use OBS. So you spout out to OBS, but you still run your packaged game, and then you could capture card in to Composure, right? Because you see, like, say this is your media input here. You basically have these media texture inputs, and you can just send a capture card straight in here. And so you capture card in here, and then that puts your media on a plane, and then you get some quite cool stuff. Like, for example, I know some people do this already, where you'd have super high resolution, high refresh rate, blah 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 screen, super clean, but you can also get reflections into your virtual space from it and stuff like that.
Yeah, I put a video in the chat. Just if you even watch the first like 30 seconds of it, you'll kind of see what I'm doing. But yeah, definitely some options for me to consider. I mean, Off-World Live's made it easy. I was having issues with Off-World Live maybe like 6 months ago. I switched over to trying to do like everything manually through inputting cameras and capture cards through Unreal, and then trying to green screen them out, and it was a mess. So Off-World Live's definitely made everything much more streamlined.
No, I mean, some stuff like the Spout OBS workflow is just insanely easy, isn't it? I mean, it's like that's what like I've got here, just coming in, zero latency, zero compression, these 3 media feeds in the background, and they're just sending it in. I mean, it's wild.
which is pretty
But
damn impressive.
it's yeah, it just
Yeah, it
makes life
works.
so
It
easy.
works well.
Yeah. But I mean, look, let's check it out. It's just, I think, honestly, for us, it's a bit like there's a lot of technology build we had to do, like a lot, like just tons and tons and tons, because often media is kind of quite temperamental anyway. So just getting all the input output, all the media I/O stable, and then also the cameras and stuff. But now what we're doing with these GitHub repositories and like the blueprints and all the rest of it is just trying to create like a lot of open assets that you can just grab and then integrate straight into your projects so that the capabilities are instantly there. So it's kind of like what you're talking about, Romeo. So what Jen was showing earlier on the call, like those big blueprints for camera switching. And that's literally like a whole camera switching blueprint where you can just switch between multiple cameras straight away, live. It pauses, unpauses them straight away.
Yeah, I
Manage
built
the whole
that from
thing.
scratch myself.
Right, and you just whack that into your scene.
Yep, camera changing.
It's like that's a lot of work, and you can just then kind of instantly drop that in. So I think that this is why these sessions is one of the reasons why we decided to do these sessions are really useful, is that the more we can understand workflows, obviously we've got a good sense of them, but the more we can understand workflows and, the more that we can then create blueprints and systems around them. And then obviously like everybody gets faster, and it's kind of fun as well because everybody's making such cool, different type of content. It just makes that whole process faster and more interesting as well, because the way we were thinking about it is like, if everybody's doing like 70 to 80% of the same stuff to get the baseline of what there, and then you make your stuff on top of it. If we can get this open source repository and it's on GitHub and it's just super easy to download, and that's all done, then you're freeing up so much more of your time to just focus on the content creation.
I agree.
So in any case, for your thing, I think we should just try and set it up as a workflow. I would say it's like package game. I mean, Jen's thing will have most of that because we're gonna have media inputs, vice spout and NDI, so that'll be there in the blueprints. You can put it on a clean media plate. It'll be in a package game. So I think it should have most of the stuff that you need.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of it. Very custom, I'm sure you can modify the environment in that. So
it's literally an Unreal level.
Yeah,
do whatever you want with it. I mean, it's not like it'll be a package game that you can play around with. Yeah, go for it. Go for it. I'll stop sharing. There'll be a package game you can play around with, but the whole point is it's just an Unreal level that you can just do whatever you want with. Yeah,
it'll be nice. Is that available now, or is it still in the works?
Well, so I think like the GitHub one, there's two that we're doing. So there's one for like virtual production and one for like kind of more VTuber style virtual studio. That's what we're starting off with. Both of them are already quite far down the line. Jen was showing off the VTuber one earlier on in the call, and I think that we're going to put up where she's at with that, which is certainly like all the media out blueprints are done, and there's quite there's tons of assets and stuff in there that she was showing. I think, Good Guy Guster, you need to basically leave and rejoin, and then you should have automatic permissions because the permissions got changed during the call. And
Testing 1 2. Okay, good, great.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
All right. So let me just show off this. So I have this like I think I feel like I'm always a little too ambitious with what I'm trying to do, but I have this entire space here that I'm using, and something that I'm doing is I have these like cameras that are rotating up here. These like Pokemon Stadium type like camera shots on rails.
It looks incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, this looks really good.
Thank you. And they just alternate back and forth. But the way I'm doing it is that I don't know why I built it this way, but essentially I have it set up so that whenever I drag a camera into here with rails, it is grabbing them and then putting them into like an array, and then it's basically going through a whole like every tick. It's doing this, causing this to happen, which I think is not the best way. I should just make them run into their own individual blueprints that'll go back and forth. But yeah, I think that's kind of been my big issue with like trying to have different multiple, like I have different cameras here that I can fly around, because I think that that's, for me, that was something I really wanted, was to be able to have be able to fly around with cameras. Um, and they actually are set to like be render targets on here, so that if I like were to do this, I can go to here, and then like you can see that it's on that camera, you know, so I could change different cameras while I do stuff. Um, and so I think that's kind of what my big question was, is like I have all these cameras with different render targets, and I'm worried that optimization wise, like it's like this is a bad idea, but I don't know enough to, you know, to know if that's true. Um, but yeah.
The simple
So,
answer is every new render target you have, which is running at the same time, is
mhm.
going to be costing you a lot of performance because
Okay.
they are all rendering.
Yeah.
Every single one of those render targets, which is rendering pixels from a different camera, is, you know, using GPU capacity.
Mm.
So what you want to do is basically just have a system, and this will be built in. Jen was showing this at the beginning of the blueprints, is just only run the ones that are active. So you need to
Right.
basically integrate into your blueprints to pause rendering on everything that isn't live at that moment in time.
I see. Okay. So good to know. Because yeah, I was like, I just wanted this feeling of like it moving, like these cameras moving around in a live scenario. Does that make sense? So I could cut to them in a multi-viewer, like in OBS. But yeah, no, I think, and I also, like, you know, that's the question about textures, because I'm just trying to do everything I can to make sure optimization, you know, is there without it.
Well, you can cut to stuff because obviously when you're setting up the blueprints, you know, you can obviously have the blueprints set up so that you can instant, because as you switch, but imagine like I've got 5 cameras, and when I
Mhm.
turn on one, I switch off 2 to
Oh, I
5.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So it's still like showing it what it's thing. It's not like I'm gonna cut to it and it's gonna be like pause and then have like a build
No.
point that's gonna start going. It's already moving. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So
There's
okay,
an
this
instant
is great.
switching, like that'll be completely seamless. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, super sweet. All right. Awesome. Well, that was really my only. And then yeah, I think that was pretty much my only question. Uh, but yeah, work in progress stuff. It's fun. I learn a lot from you guys, so I appreciate it, and your tools are really helpful. So thank you.
No, this amazing content looks really cool.
What is this used for, by the way? This looks really cool.
I've been kind of working on this off and on, like for the last like 2.5 years. I started like with 2D and making like a 2D virtual studio type thing.
Mm.
But then I started getting into Unreal Engine and was realizing that like this is where my career is going, or everything else is going. So I just kind of been using it to, I have a problem where I get distracted really easily, or I get bored. So I just move on to another thing. Like I get kind of good at it, then I just leave. But I feel like I made this so that I could just focus all of this knowledge into one area or one scene or one like game, like one package essentially. And so that's kind of what this whole thing is. It's kind of a personal project that I may or may not like share with everyone. It doesn't really matter to me. It's more of like my own passionate uh excuse to learn everything I can. So I've learned a lot since starting this whole project. So I just keep learning more. But yeah.
Hey,
I got a
Strix.
real quick question.
Oh, go ahead,
Sorry, I didn't
Romeo.
mean to. So, Finn, like, if I was to use, you know, some of these tools that are coming out in a work capacity, would it be a matter of just getting with you and like figuring out the license stuff with the company, or how does that work out? Like, if I'm using it commercially.
Yeah, if you're using it commercially, you just get a license. I mean, the license is pretty simple. There's the toolkit. I mean, there's 4 licenses now. So there's toolkit, which is like Spout, NDI, you know, the Alcinicam. There's the compositing stuff. So that's, you know, all the composure stuff I was showing you. 360 cam, which is just 360. And then there's this, you know, direct streaming and recording stuff. That's the media output. You know, if you want to just stream straight out RTMP, SRT. So yeah, I mean, it's simple. Licensing is pretty simple. You just get a machine license. It goes on your machine. You can transfer it to other machines as you like. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you. I'll definitely be keeping up with you. It's not 100% in stone this writer strike really hurt me. But I might be doing the Unreal Engine stuff for a TV show, and it's kind of gonna be a setup where we do a virtual set, and we want to have multiple camera angles of like a metahuman or two metahumans or something like that. So I will definitely keep plugged in with you, and if it goes through, I think this is the route that I'm gonna pitch to them for using.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, now with these sessions, and like I said, we're going to do the composure one tomorrow on the weekly. I think, and with the basically our idea is like if we do these sessions and we got the GitHub repository, we got the blueprint, we can really start like building the knowledge, you know, because the actual shareable resources are going to grow fast because they're going to be on the GitHub, and there's also going to be the blueprint. So hopefully there's just going to be a lot of resources that everybody can draw down on, you know, straight away. So I think it you know, let's see, but we've got a lot of stuff already built, which we're going to be releasing now, and then obviously everybody can build on top of it. So hopefully it can be great. I've got to run very soon. Somebody was going to ask one more question.
I just had a comment actually because it had to do with the last question about performance with multiple cameras, and I had an idea. I don't know how render targets work, but I had an idea where, say, you had 4 cameras, instead of like if you don't need the output to be high res, instead of each of those 4 cameras having their own render target, would there be a way to splice those onto one 16 by 9?
I don't think it's going to add much. You could just, because let's say you're going to render like one 1920 by 1080, or you're going to render 4, whatever it would be, like 360 or 480 or something. You know, you just render the 4. It's more you got to think of it in terms of pixels, you know.
So you could down res the, you could make the render target smaller, and that would
You made a render target as small as you like. I mean, yeah, if you make a much smaller render target, you're going to be rendering less pixels. It's going to that might help for your stuff. Good guy Ghastly, you know, if some of those render targets you got around your scene, you know, you might just run them at like 360.
Yeah, well, I was noticing that because unless you're really zoomed in on them, you don't need them high res.
I see, because like I mean that's really the only drawback from what you guys are saying that I could see is like when I'm in a broadcast studio, it's like you can see every shot as it's happening. You know what I mean? And that's why you cut to it, because you're like, oh, this is a better angle, right? So I think when you pause the render target, it's like I can't see. I mean I don't know actually if this is true, but if I looked in OBS, with that it would just be a static frame, you know, until I cut to it, then it's going to be.
But you could make a camera switch, and we can make this and integrate it into the project. But you could have 5 cameras all rendering at like 360 or 240p, and then when you pick the camera, you can upscale it. You can, when you select it as your main camera, you then just set that to 1920 by 1080. You know, okay. I'm really sorry. I've got to run. I mean, thanks again, everyone. Awesome to chat with you. Yeah, and catch you all in a bit.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.